Did you know the only American man Hitler mentioned and praised in Mein Kampf is someone we all know? Well, I didn't, and I was completely shocked when I learned that the man Hitler adored and called his inspiration was none other than. Would you buy anything from Nazi-related companies? I'm sure the answer is no. But what if I told you that some modern companies that are still giants today were in fact working with Nazis in the past? I know that sounds messed up, but well, it's true. Today, we'll take a look at their relations to the Nazis as well as discussing their motivations behind such collaborations. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the horrifying story of giant car brands you're driving today. The year was 1903 when the Ford Motor Company was launched by Henry Ford. In 121 years, Ford produced many things, and to our surprise, that includes aircraft engines and military vehicles. It's not the only brand that shifted its focus during war, but it's one of the most interesting ones if you ask me. In 1919, Henry Ford took over a newspaper called the Dearborn Independent, and he used it to spread pacifism. Yes, he was a pacifist, or at least that's how his own ideas were defined at the time. He believed war was all about profiteering for the people who stood to make money from the conflict. So far so good, right? Well, not exactly, because he also believed that Jews were the responsible ones in this scenario. 5 years after he held Jews accountable, Ford Motor opened an office in Berlin, and in 1931, it built a large plant in Cologne. Now, the interesting thing is, Ford's sales in Germany increased by more than half between 1938 and 1943. So yes, Ford clearly made profits while producing military equipment for Germany. And in a way, he became what he criticized once. Besides, there are documents that prove Ford used forced labor, even though the company denies it by arguing that Ford had zero control over the German plant and it lost the plant's control after 1941. But well, the US Army report of 1945 shows that German Ford had stopped manufacturing passenger vehicles and instead it focused on producing military trucks. As opposed to Ford's claim, the report says that it happened before 1941. Ford contributed so much to the Nazi cause that even the leader of the Nazi party in Cologne wrote a letter to thank the plant's leaders. In the letter, they said Ford assured them victory in the war struggle. But beyond that, they thanked for willingly cooperating in the establishment of an exemplary social state. So what happened during World War II? Men were at the front and women couldn't work because of the Nazi ideology. The companies needed workers, and the Reich decided to bring people from occupied lands. By the year of 1943, half of Ford's German workers were foreign captives that were forced to work. They worked 12 hours a day with a 15-minute break, and that was it. Even though Ford denies the accusations and said the company didn't profit from slave labor in the 1940s, it's a known fact that Henry Ford was the only American who was mentioned favorably in Hitler's Mein Kampf. So there's that. Henry Ford embraced anti-Semitism and did whatever he could to help the Nazis. The profit he made while doing so was a cherry on top. Well, Hitler praised Ford, but his company wasn't the only firm that decided to work with the Nazis and exploited war victims. Audi, for instance, used 3,700 concentration camp inmates as well as 17,300 forced laborers during the war on the production line. Back then, Audi was a part of Auto Union, which was co-founded by Dr. Richard Brunn. He was an important man for the company's history, until his dirty laundry was all over the place. Apparently, he had strong connections with the Nazis. The study about Auto Union's past shows that the SS built 6 labor camps exclusively for Auto Union, and the company is responsible for the death of approximately 4,500 inmates. Unlike Ford, today, Audi doesn't deny the allegations. When Audi's crimes were revealed, the company's spokesperson was really honest about the company's dark past. Jürgen the Grave even admitted that the numbers are much higher than they had thought, and he said the slave labor began in the summer of 1942 and peaked in the last 2 years of World War II. So how did this happen? During the war, some of the plants were transformed and they began military production. Just like Ford's, Audi's plants was one of the transformed facilities. So Audi, for example, became a company that produces tank engines and torpedoes. Such companies that have plants in Germany had a deal with the Nazis, accepting provided slave labor just to keep their profits up. Audi and Ford were founded way before World War I, and they contributed to the Nazis with their products while taking advantage of the victims and increasing their profits. What about other car brands, though? Especially the ones that were founded during and after World War I. Let's start with BMW, shall we? The BMW we love and drive today was founded in 1916 as a manufacturer of aircraft engines. During World War I, the company produced aircraft engines. When it was over, BMW had to find another way to survive. So it produced different products such as motorcycle engines, agricultural equipment, and household items. Little did it know that the war would continue. So when World War II started, it was another opportunity for the brand to shine once again. It immediately changed its focus to the BMW 801 aircraft engine. The company was classified as a German armaments and war materials manufacturer at the time, since it devoted all the resources it had to build aircraft engines for the German Air Force. Just like many other companies, BMW used slave labor too. 40,000 people, to be precise. Most of them were prisoners from Nazi concentration camps, and sadly, many of the laborers who were forced to work for BMW died of starvation and exhaustion. The funny thing is, BMW didn't focus on cars until 1928, meaning that its priority was to make money from the war from the beginning. For the company, it was an opportunity to be seized because there were examples like Ford and Audi. Those companies transformed themselves and produced military components and vehicles for Germany. So why wouldn't there be a company that directly focuses on such products? 2 years before BMW decided to manufacture cars, a brand new company was introduced, and it was none other than Mercedes-Benz. Its main focus was on trucks and personal vehicles, but by the end of 1942, passenger car sales declined. So the company decided to shift its focus from passenger vehicles to manufacture military components. In the end, it's safe to say that the company played a huge part by providing trucks to the Nazis. Now let's see how it handled the manufacturing process. At first, the company hired women even though it was contradictory to the Nazi ideology, which promoted being a good wife and a mother is the best thing a woman could do. But well, recruited women weren't enough for Mercedes' production speed, because it constantly had to send combat equipment to the front, so it decided to use forced labor as well. It probably sounded like a perfect solution, because with the bare minimum, they got the maximum efficiency. I know, unlike others, it seemed like the company tried to avoid using forced labor at first, but that doesn't change the fact that it happened eventually. According to Mercedes-Benz website, half of the employees in 1944 were forced laborers, war prisoners, and concentration camp detainees. As you already got the picture by now, Mercedes-Benz doesn't deny the accusations at all, and instead they choose to be open about it on their website. Now let's take a look at these tanks. Would you believe me if I told you these were manufactured by Porsche? Yes, the sports car giant. I know it sounds crazy. I had no idea about this until I decided to work on this video. So apparently, Porsche was one of the significant contributors to Germany during World War II. Some sources say that the founder, Ferdinand Porsche, had no choice because Hitler chose him, and if he had refused, he would have ended up in the concentration camp without achieving anything. He was actually interested in designing cars and he didn't see what was happening around him. Well, why did he abandon his own national identity to get German citizenship at the age of 59 just because Hitler considered Czechs subhuman? Why did he become a member of the Nazi party then? It doesn't add up, does it? Plus, while doing my research, I found Freddie Overstegen, a 14-year-old girl who joined the Dutch resistance during World War II. So if a teenager can resist, it shouldn't be a huge thing for a grown-up, right? The same year he got his citizenship, Porsche received a contract directly from Hitler to design a people's car, or as we know today, Volkswagen. Hitler wanted German families to get a car that's affordable and practical, so he asked Porsche to work on it. So Ferdinand and his son Ferry worked on Hitler's wish. As Volkswagen was getting ready for full-scale production, the war began. Just like many others, Volkswagen plant provided military vehicles such as Kübelwagen and Schwimmwagen. I don't know if I have to mention it, but of course, it also used forced labor. Most of the forced laborers were women, and there were pregnant ones too. So what did Volkswagen do? It built facilities for newborn babies. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, guess what? It was just an illusion. There was no medical care as promised, and after a while, the death rate in those facilities rose to 100%, meaning that not a single innocent soul could survive there. Today, some of these brands acknowledge what they've done in the past, because there's not a single way to change what happened.